Hi everyone. So today I'm going to can some venison and I'm going to use my pressure canner. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to inspect my pressure canner and make sure it's in good working order. So I'm going to check my seal, make sure there's no cracks or anything like that and that it's fitting properly. Not that you're going to be able to tell in this video, but I'm going to be able to see that I can see light through on the other side to make sure there's nothing blocking the vent there. Okay, now that I see that everything is in good working order, the next thing I'm going to do is wash up my work surface and my pressure canner and get everything sanitized and ready to go. So now that my pressure canner is all clean, I've added about 2 liters of water and about a teaspoon of vinegar. Now what the vinegar will do is stop the outside of your bottles when you're in the canning process from turning cloudy. So now that I have this ready, I'm just going to set that aside and I'm going to sterilize my jars. So I've washed and sterilized 14 jars because that's what my pressure canner holds. And during that process, I also looked for nicks and cracks. If you have any jars that have nicks or cracks in them, you may want to dispose of them as they may break in the pressure canner. I've also put 14 lids in a bowl, which later I will add hot water to. And what that hot water will do will soften that seal there so that when I put it on the jar, it'll get a better seal. Again, I'll just set that aside while I now prepare my meat. Okay, so I have my meat all cut up into the size chunks that I would like. My next step is going to be to now stuff the jars. I'm going to stuff my jars to about 1 inch from the top and add any seasoning I like. So now I have all of my jars filled to about 1 inch from the top. The meat is packed down there quite tight. The next step now is I'm going to wipe the tops of each of the jars with a damp paper towel, and then I'm going to apply the lids that we have soaking in hot water and then put the rings on just finger tight. So there, my jars have all been wiped down, lids and rings applied, and loaded into the pressure canner. The next step will be to put the lid on the canner and turn the stove on high. I now have the lid on the canner. Please make sure that it is lined up properly and in the locking position. And now what we'll do is we turn the stove on high and we will wait for steam to start to rise from this vent here. Once it has been a steady stream for about 10 minutes, then we will turn down the heat and add our weighted gauge. I'm not sure if you can tell in this video, but we have a pretty steady stream of steam coming out now. So we're going to set our timer for 10 minutes. Okay, so it's been 10 minutes now, so we are now going to add our weighted gauge. Please make sure you use an oven mitt while doing this, as the steam is very hot. Okay, so our gauge is now on there. We're going to wait till it starts to steam and rattle and roll, and then we'll reduce our heat. So you'll notice now that this here little button has popped up, and the weighted gauge is starting to steam and jiggle. So once that steam starts escaping like that and it starts to jiggle, this is when you want to turn down your heat a little bit so that that happens about 3 or 4 times in a minute. So you'll adjust your stove until that works for you. And then you're going to set your timer. And for this particular recipe, I need to set my timer for 75 minutes. Okay, so our 75 minutes are up. So now what we're going to do is just turn off the stove. And we're going to allow the canner to cool on its own. We're not going to try to open it until this valve goes back down into place and then the pressure has released some. So now we're just going to let it cool and we'll check back on it later. Okay, so our pressure cooker has started to cool, and as you can see, the button has gone back down, which means it is now safe to open the lid. Okay, so I have removed the lid and there are our jars inside. Now they are still extremely hot and bubbling actually inside. I'm not sure if you can tell that there in this video or not. So now what I'll do is I will carefully take those out with a jar lifter and I will let them on the counter to cool. Okay, so I've removed the jars from the canner and as you can see they are still bubbling. You may even hear them starting to pop. That's the seals just sealing tightly onto the jars. You just want to leave them sit on your counter now for about 24 hours. And then once they are completely cooled, I'll remove these rings. I won't store them. As you can see, they're very easy to turn right now. I will not store them with the rings on. I will take the rings off before storing them in my pantry. As always, please double check the instructions for your pressure canner before using it. So once all of your jars have cooled, if any of the lids have not sealed or popped, those are the ones you just want to put in your fridge and use up right away.
Thanks for watching. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe and share it with your friends.